This is Behind the Swipe, the podcast that takes you inside the lives of real men and women over 40 who have taken the plunge into the often murky and sometimes exhilarating world of online dating. Each week, we explore new topics through the experiences and expectations of real online daters just like you. I'm your host, Hoyt Prysock. Join me as we peel back the one-dimensional dating profiles to discover the real men and women behind the swipe. Welcome to this week's episode of Behind the Swipe. This week, we're exploring the issue of hesitancy in online dating, particularly for men and women who perhaps have recently divorced and really would like to meet someone new, but are a bit intimidated by the thought of putting up a profile on one of the 147 online dating apps and sites. Today, we'll hear from two women who share their concerns and anxieties about venturing into the unknown with online dating. First, we'll meet Holly. Holly's in her early 40s with two teenage boys at home. She's not opposed to online dating, but doesn't feel ready yet. To be honest, she'd prefer that God or the universe simply deliver a handsome and charming man to her door via UPS. Later in the show, we'll meet Liz. Liz's story is in two parts, the first of which is going to be around her anxieties and delays in getting online. And then later, we'll hear how that experience went. So today, I'm absolutely thrilled to be joined by T.H. Irwin. T.H. Irwin and her partner, Jessica Klingbaum, have created X Experts, which is an online resource for women anticipating or going through or having gone through the divorce process and all of the complications around that. T.H. and Jessica also have an amazing podcast called Divorce, Etc., and they explore these issues every week with a guest on a different topic. So, TH, I'm glad that you're with us today. Thank you for coming.
I'm so excited to be here with you. Our purposes are similar in that we can make a difference based on what we've learned as life experts ourselves. So I'm excited to be here and let's get on with this. I love it.
Awesome. Well, listen, before we do that, tell me a little bit more about X Experts and tell me about the podcast Divorce, Etc.
So Jessica and I are best friends over 30 years. We met while she was still in college. Her husband and my then husband, the four of us were best friends. We did all the things together. Everything looked beautiful and awesome in the pictures and our families and us growing up basically together. And then 13 years into our marriages, we found out that our husbands were cheating on us, covering for one another in long-term affairs. Now, we were married to two very different men, even though they were best friends. So our divorces were very different, but we had each other through it all. And we didn't realize what a huge gift that was until we really started going through the motions of our divorces. I mean, we were each other's date for our first New Year's Eve. We had each other on the weekends with our kids. We had a lawyer meeting. We're chirping in each other's ears. Did you think about college? Well, they're only 4 and 2. Well, you better think about college. So there were no resources when we separated from our husbands over 15 years ago now. I feel ancient, but now there is so much information out there for all of you guys. You are flooded with messages left and right, and you are also being watched between your phones and your drones and your who the hell knows, Alexa and whatever. It's a scary time to get a divorce. So we created the platform called X Experts, that's exexperts.com, as a one-stop shop of all vetted, trustworthy information to help you if you're thinking about it, if you're in the thick of it, and right before the real work starts to get your life heading in a different direction and moving forward, despite having a divorce and not carrying that as a burden, but as a superpower almost. And we are leading by example. And our Divorce, Etc. podcast, we interview the best of the best experts because we believe that education and support is what leads to empowerment. The more you know, the better your choices will be, and you are deciding your future and that of your kids. You don't want to be like me relying on a $500 per hour lawyer to educate me. I would have liked to have been in a position of, you work for me. I kind of felt like I worked for her. So this is why we created this platform, this podcast. We are your girlfriends going through it all. We're not your lawyers. We're not your therapists. We're not your financial planners. But we are 100% your girlfriends to the end.
I love that, TH. And it sounds like what you're trying to do is to help women and men who are going through this,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Get the same kind of support that you and Jessica were able to provide for each other during that process.
100%.
And I just think that's awesome work. And I commend both of you for that and encourage everybody in our audience to go check out Divorce Etc. and the xexperts.com.
Thank you.
So let's talk about this factor of hesitancy in jumping online after a divorce. There's so many factors in here that play into this, not the least of which is, trust issues, right? You come out of this relationship, you don't know who you are in relation to anyone else.
Yep.
So tell me a little bit about your personal experience with this.
So my husband was actually engaged to the woman he was in the long-term affair with before I found out the truth. So that just added a little cherry on top for me. So I was actually in a legitimate, emotionally abusive marriage. I was in one where gaslighting was every day. I was always walking on eggshells. I was a shell of a person. So as soon as I knew that I wasn't crazy and that there's no guilt here with me ending this marriage because he's the bad guy now. I really didn't know what I wanted. I just knew what I didn't want. And I think that my hesitancy was, am I going to attract somebody who's going to treat me like that again? Like, I can't make this mistake again. So number one is fear of the unknown. The number two hesitancy was my kids, because now he's got this woman. He's moved here from the West Coast only a month after we've separated. So their lives are complicated enough. Am I going to complicate it more by dating, which I did date secretly for as long as I could. And the other thing that you just have to do trial and error, honestly, a little bit. I put myself out there, but I settled a lot at the beginning. I just wanted someone to tell me I was pretty. I just wanted someone to be interested in what I had to say. I was starved for so many basic human needs that I didn't even know until I started dating. So I would say you have nothing to lose in putting yourself out there. Go on the date. Who cares? You may never see him again, or you might have a great night, have a great conversation, and still not be interested. We call it the flex. You have to flex your new muscles, right? You have to try your new skills. Like, do I even know how to flirt? Am I even a flirt? I don't even know what that means. So I would say just put yourself out there, but the hesitancy is real. A trust was certainly an issue, but honestly, for me, I had such low self-esteem that I was really afraid that I was just going to be stomped on again. And I just couldn't go back there again. So that was my primary reason for like, I don't know if this is a good idea.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, listen, thanks for sharing that story. I mean, everybody needs to hear, I think, the real experiences of people who have done that and come out the other side. And what surprises me and it shouldn't really surprise me, but it does sometimes, in having these conversations with people that had every reason in the world lined up not to go online. And not only do they have a good experience with it, but they learn so much about themselves
Absolutely.
and the
Absolutely.
confidence.
And if you have a friend doing it, like Jessica and I were doing it together, she actually did my Hinge profile. But I had been in 2 relationships before the one I'm in now, and I met both guys on Match.
Yeah,
And one was a 2-year and one was a 5-year. So you get what you put out there. Okay.
I love
People
that.
meet you where you are. So if you're attracting less desirable people, you might need to do a little work. And that's totally fine. Just be aware of it. Cause then you're going to be disappointed all the time. And you know what? Maybe I need to, you know, clean up some of my own stuff.
Yeah,
And then, I'll attract somebody who's at a higher level that I want to be at.
that's great advice, DH. So earlier this week, I had an opportunity to meet a woman named Holly, and Holly has not been online. She's only been divorced for a relatively short time. First, I asked her about her circumstances and how she gets there. Let's play that clip.
So it was a shock. I was told that we were getting a divorce about 20 months ago. He just decided that he actually had never loved me and that he had married me because I was a safe choice. So, yeah, that was the reality that he felt. And we were done. So, we had done marriage counseling for 3 years. And that was the conclusion that was drawn.
So I went on to ask Holly whether she was ready to date again and how she felt about online dating.
I'm ready. And, my joke is if God dumps somebody on my lap, I'm not going to say no at this point. So I'm definitely open to it, but I'm also not actively seeking it. My focus has been on my kiddos. I actually was a stay at home mom for 16 and a half years. I'm just now starting back into the workforce. So my focus at the moment is to establish a career, but I'm also not willing I'm not saying no. It doesn't have to be this is going before that. I am willing. I just have not wanted to spend the time yet. And so I haven't, everybody I've talked to says it takes time to establish the account and go through it and deal with that. So that's not how I've wanted to spend my time to this point. Yeah. So I have friends and family members who have met and married spouses online and have good experiences. I also have a lot of close friends here in my area who feel like they've done it for years and there's not yielded anything. So I think I have more close friends who have negative experiences than positive, just in terms of the pool of people that they're finding and, that it ends up being a waste of time.
So, TH, all legitimate concerns, right?
Absolutely.
And she's saying, look, I'm open to this, but my life is not set up perfectly to allow me to put the time and effort into it. So, what's your reaction to what Holly just said?
You can always make time for things that you want to do. There's always a way. These are excuses and they're valid, but they are. And look, I remember when I separated, people were coming up to me, don't worry, you're so pretty. You'll find a nice guy. There'll be a good guy out there for you. My goal in life is not to find a great guy. My goal in life is to be happy. And whatever that touches and makes me happy gets to join. And if a
Hmm.
man is a part of it, great. And if a man is not a part of it, great. So I think that Holly, I commend her starting a job after being a stay at home mom, listening to him say that stuff. It breaks my heart. You have 2 boys, but this is the clear reality. And you are worth somebody's time and effort. And you can decide if they're worth your time and effort. What we advise people to do is make time for you doing a social activity. Find something that you love. Like now we've got all these ping pong tournament places here. We have women's golf groups. We have mixers. We have travel groups. We have all these things. So think about what your interest is. So it doesn't feel like you're dating. but you're going and finding something you love to do. And if you meet somebody there, then they share that same interest and it's all part of doing for you. And they're kind of guilty by association. You know what I mean? And you might
Yes.
not meet the guy, but you might meet someone else who says, I've got a great guy for you. So I would just say, Holly, keep your mind open to meeting people. Nothing is a waste of your time unless you decide it's a waste of your time. Don't let other
Right.
people put that into your head. I've had 3 successful online dating experiences. One is my current and forever man. My brother met his wife online. My tons of people. It's what you put into it. It does take time. But if you have fun with it and you don't take it too seriously, it's not a waste of your time. You're just going to learn. I
Yeah.
see no downside. What do you think?
So TH, first of all, I love her attitude, right? She's in a difficult place
Yeah.
in her life, readjusting to so much. And yet you can hear in her voice that she's got a positive optimism about this life that she's creating.
Yep.
And I love that.
Yep.
I also worry though that, you heard her talk about her friends having negative experiences. And I know you've seen this, and I've seen this a number of times where those voices start chirping at you
Yeah.
that create the mindset for a negative experience, right? And so how would you advise her on partitioning that set of voices that define this scary negative environment that she's embarking on?
Well, I would dig into it a little. If you said to me, TH, it's a nightmare, don't even date. I would say, Hoyt, why? What about it made it a nightmare? Did you like somebody who didn't like you? Did you just feel like you weren't getting good? Like, dig a little deeper because it's usually about the person and not about the app. The apps wouldn't be in existence and there wouldn't be as many as there are if they weren't successful to some degree. So I think that I think she should keep her open mind. I think she should surround herself with people who give her positive feedback and education. So yes, there are a lot of work, 100% true. Yes, you can get burned, 100% true. Yes, you can find somebody great, 100% true. Yes, you can learn, you can laugh, you can have a night out of your house and break up the routine. And you can also learn something. You know what? I don't want someone holding my hand across the street who I don't like, who I don't even know. Don't touch me. I learned that pretty quickly. I ripped my hand away from this guy. This poor guy was just holding my hand across the street. I was like, don't hold my hand. I wasn't ready. How are you going to know what you're ready for, Holly, if you don't put yourself out there so you can continue to grow? That's kind of my feeling.
Oh, that's so true. So TH, I think it's an appropriate time. We're going to take a short break.
Yeah.
And then when we come back, we're going to hear a very different story from two sides of that experience. I hope you're enjoying Behind the Swipe. It's been a true honor for me to hear from so many of you how much you appreciate the work we're doing. But we need your help to spread the word and grow our audience. And there are 2 things that you can do right now that will be so meaningful to us. First, Apple and Spotify rely heavily on listeners' ratings and reviews to decide which podcast to recommend. So please do so in your app now. And second, if you know someone you think may enjoy Behind the Swipe, please share a link from wherever you listen. Thanks again for all your support. Now, back to the show. So I am back with T.H. Irwin of the xexperts.com and the very successful podcast, Divorce, Etc. So welcome back, TH.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here with you.
So we heard in the first half of the show from Holly, and Holly is very recently divorced. I mean, the announcement of the breakup just happened 20 months ago.
Yeah.
We're going to hear now from Liz. And Liz has waited 5 years before beginning to date, really for a number of reasons. So first, I want to hear her story that is about that hesitation that she had about dating in the first place, and particularly with dating online. So let's hear from Liz.
I was divorced about 5 years before I started to take the plunge into online dating. And I will be quite honest when I say it was a long, slow process to dip my toe into those waters. I had a middle schooler and a high schooler. So life was kind of busy. I also realized that there had been some significant little t trauma in my marriage I needed some space with. So I decided that I would not date for a year after I was divorced. And I had almost a 2 year gap between our decision to separate and the divorce being finalized. Some of that was the kids. Some of that was intentional in terms of me deciding that I wanted to do some healing work. I looked back at my relationship history and I had gone straight from college boyfriend to literally straight from college boyfriend to after college boyfriend to dating my then husband. So I recognized that I had kind of gotten lost in that process. So I wanted to kind of get to know Liz again. So that's the positive side of it. The negative side of it is that there was definitely confidence issues that were not the fault of my ex-husband, but were exacerbated by the dynamics of our relationship, exacerbated by infidelity, trust issues that again were exacerbated by the infidelity. But once I kind of dug into the root, there was definitely a root of not trusting myself. And I wanted to kind of stand on my own 2 feet before I figured out how to invite somebody else into my life. Then there's just all the anxiety about the unknown. I leaned toward not doing it, even while I was engaging in the process of signing myself up and, doing some research. I procrastinated quite a bit by going, well, I need to research this a little bit more. I'm going to study. Let me see if I can find anybody who's done it. Really, it's just the uncertainty. I do not know what's on the other side of that door, or I don't know who is on the other side of the screen, let's say.
Uh-huh.
Personality for me is also involved. Like I want to do this right, in quotation marks, that I don't want to mess up. So some perfectionistic tendencies, which definitely is a pattern that has held me back in different areas of my life. But this is definitely one of them where I was like, okay, here we go again. I'm overthinking. I'm thinking that there's a right way to do this and a wrong way to do this, rather than just doing it and trusting myself to figure it out each step of the way, to figure out the process, to figure out what I want to do. And both of those are really important. Like there is a process, but this is not life or death.
So, TH, that story's got to resonate with you.
I mean, she's me. We are soul sisters here. Good for her for taking the time for herself. Good for her for healing. There's no deadline on any. You don't have to start dating at a certain time. You don't have to do anything except according to your own path. I don't love the idea that she limited her life and set restrictions on herself, but maybe that's also a protective instinct she has based on coming out of her marriage. The more you can control, the less risk there exists. So if she focuses on her kids and whatever else she had going on, then there's no room to be vulnerable and potentially get hurt.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
But Then she's talking about being perfect in dating. And that also ties back to her marriage. I get it. It was never good enough, no matter what I did. It was never right. I could do it exactly the way he asked, and it wasn't good. So it didn't matter. So she, in my mind, has already done so much work that she can actually see her vulnerability and her, I don't like to call them weaknesses, they're like lesser strengths. Because as soon as you can see it, then you can move forward. It's when you don't see it and you ignore it that you're stuck. So I also like that she is moving forward. There is no such thing as a perfect date.
What struck me with that is that she's demonstrating a lot of wisdom. And
Absolutely.
you can hear in her voice the growth that she went through as she was processing all of
Yep.
this. And to your point, TH, if it takes 5 years for you to be ready to do that, it takes 5 years. But you're working on yourself
Yep.
that whole time.
Yeah.
But this tendency toward perfectionism, right? Oh, I got one shot at this. I got to do it exactly right. That's a kind of a companion that goes with, I need to lose a little weight, right? Oh, I'm going to get this work done. I get the Botox and then I'm going to get back on. Or
Yeah.
I can't do this because I don't have the right photos for it. There are
Yeah.
all of these reasons.
Yep.
And I think that, and we'll hear in the second part of this, that she did get past that. But don't you feel like so many men and women actually go through exactly this hesitancy?
Absolutely. I think the big thing here are expectations. And I just watched, I think it was the season finale of And Just Like That, the Sex and the City spinoff. They all had to say something they were going to give up. And Carrie said expectations. And when you're going into this next phase of your life after divorce, you have to be a little vulnerable and don't go in with expectations. Otherwise, you're not going to learn anything. You're fully restricting yourself and the opportunity to have a great night. Well, he didn't pull out the chair for me, but we sat and spoke for 2 hours and I laughed and I walked out feeling great, but he didn't do that. So like, lose the expectations, go in, you have nothing to lose. Have your girlfriend on the phone, be like, "Oh, okay, I gotta go." If it's not working out, you have a way out. You're not locked in for life by going on one date.
Well, I know that at least half of our audience wants you as a girlfriend right now.
I'm here for you, girls and guys. I got your back. I mean, expectations are what paralyze us, I think, from growth and success. I know it, actually. I know it.
Uh,
I wouldn't be where I am if I had limited myself with expectations.
TH, you also talked about something that I've heard you say on your podcast about the importance of understanding for yourself why it is that you want to date. What are you dating for? Can you
Yep.
tell us some more about that?
I think it's really important that you set your intention. And none of your intentions are wrong unless you're harming somebody. Okay. So if your intention is, I have not had great sex in forever, then go and have great, protected, smart sex. Go live your life. If your intention is, I just want someone who's interested in books and we can sit and talk about, all these things, then join a book club and be intentional about who you're talking to. If you are looking for a life partner, now intention and expectations are two different things. Because my intention of going out with people was to learn about myself. I wasn't expecting anything of it, except that I was hoping to uncover more of me so I could get back in touch with me and what I might like. Because I know in my 40s, I'm not looking for the same thing as I was in my 20s. So it's a whole new lineup here. So being really intentional about what you're looking for will help weed out all the people who are just not going to be a good fit for you. You
Right.
speak to them in 2 seconds. They don't have the same interests. Okay, it's not going to work. Like I knew also my intention was I 100% was not going to date anybody who wasn't already divorced and had kids. I am not going down another path of educating someone on what it's like to be a parent. And my divorce was 4 years and really difficult. And I don't want to be judged by it, you know? So be very clear on your intentions. You want to hook up, you want to just laugh, you want to go out for a drink, you want to find somebody, you want to just travel with somebody, or you just want someone to talk to, whatever. You write all those things down because then you will hold yourself accountable to your intentions and then you can clean it up because I'm sure there'll be some you're like, that probably wasn't like a realistic
And
intention.
like you say, I mean, your intentions may change and evolve over
Absolutely.
time.
Yep.
So if you're just dating for companionship right now, go for it, right?
Totally.
If you're just dating for sex right now, go for it, right?
Do it.
And that will teach you every relationship that you're in teaches you something about yourself.
As long as you have your eyes and ears open, you will
That is
learn.
an
And
important point.
Holly mentioned about other people said it was a nightmare. Maybe they weren't ready to learn, you know? Like you don't get me already. We've just met for a drink for 15 minutes. How am I supposed to get you? So
Yes. Yeah.
yes. Yes and yes.
So Liz's experience then, let's fast forward, she did take that leap. She did jump online. And spoiler alert, she's in a great relationship with a guy that she met on eHarmony right now.
Yep.
And so you can hear in her voice in this next clip that I'll play for you how important it was and what she really learned from that experience the first time. So let's listen to the rest of Liz's story.
Liz, you're being too serious. Lighten up. Quit overthinking. I mean, there are definitely some lessons that I learned in the writing the profile part. And so much of that was because I had not seen a platform's profiles. I didn't know how do you create something when you don't know what the expectations are? Once I did get online and started becoming familiar with how men do their profile, I was like, oh, I put way too much angst into this process and judged myself way too harshly. I could have thrown a couple of pictures up and a couple of lines of non-agonized over text and been just fine. And I don't say that to be judgmental of what I found, because the truth is that everybody in the online space is coming from a different place. I was looking for the experience, and if a partner came out of it, then that was going to be a bonus. Life is what you make of it. So online dating is going to be what you make of it too. If you make it serious and heavy, then it's not going to be fun. And it can be fun. Like it's fun to meet new people and to hear their stories and to learn about yourself through the process. I thought it was a lot of fun to experience new confidence within myself, like the courage to say no thank you. Like that doesn't have to be a rejection of somebody. And I didn't have to see it as a rejection of me when somebody was like, no, I don't see this going anywhere. Okay, so nice to meet you. We had some fun. Thank you for the nice meal or meals or activities or whatever it was. And then just move forward, see what comes next. I think culturally, women are raised to put so much importance on a partner relationship, like the whole Cinderella and Prince Charming concept. And I hope that is changing. I know it certainly has changed in my life, and there's no expectation that somebody's going to rescue me from my life, but enhance my life or support me in the journey of making my life what I want it to be. Like me writing the end of that fairy tale rather than it coming together because of the presence of someone else. And that was also part of my dating experience, was to detach happiness ever after from having a partner.
TH,
Good for her.
absolutely Liz is a soul sister of yours, right?
Yeah, she's a rock star. I love all of it. And I think she realized that being authentic is the best way to be, instead of trying not to mess up the dating. And look, if it's not a good fit, it's not a good fit. And she's also grown up a lot. Like she's, I've learned to laugh at myself and not be like, oh my God, I screwed up. It wasn't good enough. Instead, I literally laugh at myself because it's so ridiculous, some of the things that I do. And you're coming from a very fragile state when you come out of a marriage like that, when you're all about control and you're all about everything being perfect. I'm really glad she took all those years to work on herself so that she can enjoy, instead of always being on alert that something's going to go wrong. So I love being authentic in her new self. I think she's speaking my words.
Back in the first part of her story, when she talked about trying to craft this thing right and get the words exactly right and the right photos and all of that kind of stuff, one of the parts of the conversation that we didn't get to hear was that, like you and Jessica, right? It was a friend of hers that took her hand, walked her through, gave her the confidence to
Yep.
actually make that leap. And you can hear from her story, in her own words, that she's a very different person than the person that first hesitated to
Yep.
date online.
Yep.
So that's an important piece of this, right? Is finding the right support system that encourages you through this process.
I mean, we remind everybody all the time that they are not alone. You feel very lonely because your immediate pod that you're in might not get it. And maybe you don't want to share with them, but that's why we did Ex Experts. We are no BS, no judgment. We don't know you. We are fully taking you for your word. And we're going to help you based on what you're sharing with us. And we have people who are very transparent, and there's a fear of doing things alone. What if I mess up? What if I was in a relationship for 5 years and I swore I would never get married again? And
Mhm.
my parents would talk to me about it and say, maybe you're just not going to marry him. And I'm like, oh, no, 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 no. I'm never getting married again. He's fine, but I'm never getting married again because I didn't want to get divorced again. Except that if I married that guy, I would have gotten divorced again. And my man now, I don't need to get married, but I would only marry him. So you're not with somebody because you need to be with somebody. You're not getting married because you have to be married. The relationship is everything first. It's your relationship with yourself that allows you to have relationships. Forget about a guy or a girl. How about friends, family? I had to set up new boundaries with my mother because that's what led me to my marriage being a debacle. So it all starts with you. And then the people you surround yourself with, and you were talking about negative voices in your head. The more you surround yourself with positive voices, positive mantras, positive thoughts, they will outweigh the negative. And then when someone brings something negative to you, you can say, you know what? I disagree. And that's the end of the conversation. You don't have to hear it anymore. Actually, my boyfriend's mother says that. She's like, I respectfully disagree. And it's
And
kind of
that
like,
end of
well, we're
story. What
done
do you say,
here.
right?
Like, there's nothing else to say. So
Yep.
people don't, also friends and family don't always know the right thing to say.
Mhm.
So we're not mind readers. If you have people who are important in your life who are not saying the right thing and not doing the right thing by you, whether it's dating or friendships or work or whatever, I would have a conversation with them and set new boundaries for yourself. I really don't like that. And Bradley was mentioning, that this woman was ready to leave her husband when he came home from a business trip. He goes, "Why are you leaving me?" She said, "Because you never tell me that you love me." He goes, "Oh, well, I thought you just knew." But she kept sitting with that for who knows how long
Uh-huh.
without having the conversation about it and letting it become something bigger. So being good with you, setting boundaries, learning to communicate in a productive way. This will help with dating, online dating, getting your job, getting yourself back out into the world. I have someone I work with who just did a triathlon. She's like, "I can't run, swim, or bike, but I'm giving myself 6 months and I'm doing it." And she just did it last weekend with her son. She goes, "And I beat my son in swimming." So you all can do anything, but it starts with you. So be authentic, be intentional, be forgiving also because you're going to make a shit ton of mistakes. Um, but just keep moving forward. That's
That's
all. So I'm super proud of Liz and I'm super proud of Holly. They're still moving forward. You go at your own pace.
that's so inspiring, TH. So tell me about one of the other things that she talked about. I'm curious about this. Is this sort of cultural notion of the Prince Charming kind of thing. It does, is that really a problem with expectations like we were talking about before? And how do you disconnect from that paradigm that exists in the world, this expectation that's unrealistic sometimes?
I think fairy tales are very different for a lot of different people. You can think of Cinderella. Do you ever see the Dunkin' Donuts commercial where Rapunzel's upstairs and he's like, "Rapunzel, let down your hair." She's like, "No, I'm good." He goes, "Can we still date?" She's like, "No, I'm good. We'll see other people." And she pulls her hair up and she goes on her way. I mean, she totally disrupted the fairy tale. Look, the fairy tale is that you live your life being authentic, happy, and good with yourself. And like I said at the beginning, whoever's in that pod with you just adds and elevates that level. And it's not either or. Well, I've got kids, so I can't date. I've got a job, so I can't take time for myself. They can all coexist together for you. So there's definitely a fairy tale out there. My fairy tale with my man was that I blew him off because I was on a dating tear. I had 2 and 3 dates in a day. I had Paul, Upper West Side, John, in Jersey. I had everybody labeled. It was like a whole, like, I don't know, diagram of a mess. And I had been speaking to my boyfriend through Hinge and then texting, and we had both gotten dogs and whatever. And I was like, I'm shutting it down. I'm done. I'm out of control. I don't even know who I'm talking to anymore. And so we were supposed to have drinks and I blew him off. And he only lives a mile from my house for 30 years. I never met him. So this is my fairy tale. He went to the bar instead. He saw my girlfriend. He's like, "TH is too busy for a drink." She's like, maybe she gets busy. I don't know. So I'm traveling for work. I come back to pick up my dog from the kennel because that's where I board her. And he walks in with his dog and he goes, "How was your trip?" And we have been together every day since. It's 5 years. And it wasn't love at first sight, but it's the first time that I actually saw him, like in person for real, but also like I felt some connection, but I wasn't like, "Oh my God, I'm in love with this man. He's my forever." It took some time. It took some time, but it grew and there was something about him. Like, I'm sure you have that with your wife. Like when you were dating, like, don't know what it is, but there's something about this person that's different than
That
who
I
I've
want to
met in
find
the
out
past.
more, right? It makes you curious. I want to find out
Curious,
more.
interested. So your fairy tale may not be that someone's going to drop someone at your front door. Your fairy tale might not be, "Oh my God, this is the first guy I dated. He's into me. I'm done. I don't have to date anybody ever again. I'm fully in love. This is great." It's your own fairy tale is going to be your own. So it's not going to be in the movies or in the books, which are all fun to read about and everything. But it's your real life fairy tale you just keep your eyes open, you be 100% authentic, and that'll become your fairy tale. It's very funny. And side note, my dating app filters, he never would have qualified. We never would have matched, except that he was divorced and had kids. That was it. I mean, literally, you had to be 5'11", he's 5'7". You had to go to the gym, he never goes to the gym. He's in construction. I always dated guys in finance, like could not be more different. His pictures on Hinge were ski boots on a mountain, not even his face. Flip-flops on a boat on a lake, never saw his face. I think there was only one picture with his face and he was clean shaven. So when I saw him at the vet, I didn't even recognize him because he had like scruff. So I had known, and I was dressed in sweatpants, Uggs. I was picking up my dog after a work trip. Like I was not ready, but that was my fairy tale. So
All
let your
all
fairy tale
serendipity.
unfold in the most authentic way for you. That's what I think.
So, TH, my fairy tale is
Yes.
having you as a guest host this week. This has
Aw.
been fantastic.
Thank you so much. I am really so honored to be here. I love that we have this friendship also, and that we're going to be bringing people so much rich information. Knowledge is power, everybody. And you are so fortunate to be here with Hoyt and with me and the other guests that he also brings on this show and all of the experts. Like, we are your people. So make sure you always listen in. We've got great advice for all of you.
Remind people of how to find you on the socials and how to get to your podcast and the website.
So the website is experts.com. It's exexperts.com. Our podcast is there. All of our articles are there. You can have a list of all of our 180 plus experts who we interview, because we are not lawyers. We are not therapists or financial planners, but we will get you the information that you need, from what kind of divorce, how do I pay for my divorce, how do I know I need a divorce. We did a whole other master class on to date or not to date. And we do a divorce tip Tuesday every Tuesday on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, all at experts. And Divorce Etc. can be found on all podcast platforms. So, or you can just email us hello@xexperts and we will guide you.
TH, thanks again. This has been fantastic. And I look forward to having you back again sometime.
I would love it. Thank you so much. This really was a fabulous opportunity and a great day.
If you're enjoying Behind the Swipe, you can subscribe to our weekly episode feed on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And follow us on Instagram at Behind the Swipe Podcast. Got an over 40 dating story? We'd love to hear it. Just go to behindtheswipe.com and click on the Be a Guest tab. We just might feature you on one of our upcoming episodes. I'm your host, Hoyt Prysock. Until next week, swipe fearlessly.